Most practice doesn't work, and you can feel it. You're putting in hours but staying average, and there's a reason. It's not talent, it's not genetic, it's not luck. Your practice method is broken. You can fix it. By the end, you'll understand the system that separates wasted reps from actual skill growth. Think about your last practice session for a moment. Did you measure anything? Or just play until you got tired? Most practice is autopilot repetition, dressed up as dedication. You're reinforcing the same mistakes faster, building neural pathways that lock you into mediocrity. Real improvement requires a different system entirely. Here's what separates elite practitioners from everyone else. They don't practice longer. They practice smarter. The difference is measurable, systematic, and learnable. In a moment, I'll show you the one mechanism most serious practitioners build into every session. But first, understand why effort doesn't equal progress. You've been sold a lie about practice. The lie is simple. Time invested equals skill gained. Show up, put in hours, and results follow. It sounds right, it feels true when you're exhausted and your muscles are sore. Surely all this effort means something. It doesn't. Practice can be a sophisticated form of spinning your wheels. You can practice guitar 3 hours daily for a decade and still be mediocre. You can run 1,000 free throws and shoot the same percentage as when you started. You can rehearse a presentation 50 times and still make the same mistakes. Hours don't equal improvement. Method does. This is the part most people miss. The research on skill acquisition is consistent on one-point practice. Quality beats practice quantity, but most practitioners measure quantity. They count hours, days, weeks. They celebrate duration. They confuse effort with effectiveness. This is how talented people plateau. This is how consistent practice produces inconsistent results. Here's what actually happens when you understand the system. You work less, but improve faster. You feel confused for the first week, then clarity emerges. Your progress accelerates in visible, measurable ways. What took months of grinding now takes weeks of deliberate focus. You reach skill levels you thought were out of reach. This is learnable, not from motivation, not from willpower, from method. Ask yourself right now, can you name 3 things you measured in your last practice session? Not time, not how many reps, actual improvement metrics. Most people can answer this. That's the problem. And it's also the solution. In a moment, it'll reveal the measurement framework that elite practitioners use to track every session. But first, here's why most people are practicing like beginners. Despite years of effort, your comfort zone is lying to you. It tells you that consistent repetition equals learning. You repeat what you already know how to do. You stay in the narrow zone where performance is smooth. This feels productive. This feels like practice. This is the opposite of what builds skill. Pay attention to this part. Skill grows at the edge of your current ability, not in the middle of it. That edge is uncomfortable. It's the moment when you attempt something slightly harder than you can currently execute consistently. You make mistakes, you struggle, your form breaks down. This is where learning happens. Most people hate this and avoid it. Your brain is built to drift toward comfort. This is survival instinct. Comfort meant safety. Danger meant the growth edge. So we're wired to practice what we're already good at. In zones where mistakes are rare, we get faster at being average. We get better at doing it exactly the same way. This is expensive in years of your life. Think about it. A bassist plays the same comfortable songs over and over for 5 years, getting faster at those 5 songs, but unable to play anything else. A tennis player practices against opponents at their same level, never facing speeds or angles that force adaptation. A coder writes in the same patterns they learned 3 years ago, never pushing toward complexity. Years pass, hours accumulate, nothing changes, and they blame talent. This is the silence of wasted potential. Not dramatic failure, just quiet mediocrity dressed up as hard work. Now here's the mechanism of actual skill growth. Skill develops through this cycle. Clear target, focused attempt, immediate feedback, correction, repeat. Remove any step and you get repetition. Not learning. Add friction to feedback and you get grinding. No feedback at all and you're just getting tired. This is why most practice fails. It's missing the loop. The loop is everything. The loop determines whether 6 months builds mastery or just habit. Picture a guitarist, frustrated after a year of daily practice. She plays the full song front to back, measuring her progress by how many times she completes it without stopping. Months go by, she completes more songs, but nothing actually improves. Her bar chords still blur, her transitions still crackle. Nobody told her playing the whole song isn't practice, it's performance. Practice isolates the weak part, drills it deliberately, and reintegrates. That's it. That's the difference. Most people practice the performance instead of practicing the skill components. A public speaker rehearses the entire presentation instead of isolating the transitions where they stumble. A runner does the full distance instead of isolating the hill section that defeats them. A pianist plays the entire sonata instead of drilling the 3 measures where their hands desynchronize. This is why thousands of hours produce incremental change. They're practicing the whole instead of the broken parts. Here's the fix. The moment you feel something isn't working, you stop the performance. You isolate it. You drill it slow. You measure precision, not speed. You build it up, not in one giant session, but in small daily bites. Then you reintegrate it. You feel the difference immediately. That's not motivation, that's data. This is where the plateau myth gets exposed. People say, I've hit a wall, I can't improve anymore. No, you've just been practicing the wrong thing for long enough that it feels stuck. The plateau isn't permanent, it's directional. Change the variable, switch from full performance to component practice, or from slow to fast, or from single rep to timed sets, and the plateau cracks. Movement resumes, usually within days. Now let's build the system. Deliberate practice has specific components. Master these and you'll outpace people with twice your natural talent. It's not motivational philosophy, it's engineering. This is where most people quit before they reach it. The first principle is specificity. You do not practice a skill, you practice a weakness within that skill. The difference is fundamental. Practicing guitar means improving overall. Practicing the F major bar chord. Transition means drilling the specific 2-string shift that causes buzzing. One is vague, one is measurable. Current state buzzing on strings 23 during transition. Target state clean ring on all 6 strings. Number 95% clean transitions before advancing. Elite practitioners think in components. They break apart complex skills into discrete elements. A tennis player doesn't practice tennis. They practice serve placement, backhand slice, net approach, volley reflexes. Each gets its own session. Each gets its own feedback loop. Each gets its own measurement. A writer doesn't practice writing. They practice dialogue authenticity, scene pacing, transition clarity, opening hooks. Same principle. Why? Because you can improve what you don't. Isolate, you can get feedback on what you don't measure. You can accelerate what you don't focus on. Specificity kills vagueness, and vagueness is why most practice fails. The second principle is feedback velocity. Without feedback, practice is guessing in the dark. You need to know, as close to immediately as possible, whether you did it right or wrong. Delayed feedback is almost useless feedback. You've already forgotten the sensation. Your brain can't correlate the adjustment to the outcome. This is why a coach matters. A coach can tell you instantly that note was sharp, your form collapsed, your tempo drifted. You can hear it because you're inside the performance. You're too close. External feedback removes the blind spot. But coaches cost money and aren't always available. So elite practitioners build feedback mechanisms into their practice. They use a mirror for visual feedback. They use a metronome for timing feedback. They use a recording device to hear what actually happened versus what they thought happened. A chess player studies their losses to get feedback from the board. A runner measures their split times to get feedback from the clock. Each of these is a feedback loop. Each closes the gap between intention and execution. The third principle is progressive overload. You don't jump from difficult to harder. You increase incrementally, 5 to 10% jumps. This prevents injury, prevents burnout, prevents false peaks that collapse. Imagine a saxophonist who can play a passage at 120 beats per minute. She increases to 125 beats per minute, maintains it for 3 days, then 130 beats per minute, not 180 beats per minute tomorrow. Progressive, systematic, sustainable. Current capability 120 beats per minute, 90% accuracy. Increase 5 beats per minute only when accuracy hits 95%. Track weekly progression in spreadsheet. Most people violate this principle in the other direction. They stay too long in the comfortable zone. They master something and then loop it for months instead of moving forward. They get efficient at being intermediate. Real mastery requires constant small advancements. The fourth principle is quality reps over total reps. One perfect repetition teaches more than 10 sloppy ones. This is the opposite of what most people believe. Most believe volume. Do it more times. Get better faster. Wrong. Do it right fewer times. Improve faster. Here's why your nervous system learns patterns. If the pattern is sloppy, you encode sloppiness. You literally train your brain to execute the wrong thing. Then you spend months untraining it. This is why form matters before speed. This is why slow matters before fast. Build the right pattern first. Enforce it through focused, perfect reps. Then increase the demands. Picture a golfer working on her putt from 6 feet. Instead of hitting 50 putts at normal pace, she hits 12 putts, each one with full conscious attention. She notices exactly when her putter head moves offline. She corrects. She measures. She does it again perfectly. 12 perfect reps. 3 days later, her putting percentage on the course improves. Why? Because she encoded perfect motion, not dozens of variations. Quality reps produce quality results. Now the fifth principle, measurement and tracking. If you don't measure it, you don't improve it. Measurement drives 3 things. It provides feedback, data, it reveals trends, it creates motivation. A runner who tracks their mile split times sees whether they're trending faster or slower. A musician who records sessions hears tangible progress. A programmer who logs bugs fixed per week sees velocity increasing. Measurement is feedback at scale. But here's the psychological piece. Measurement also maintains motivation during plateaus. When you're grinding at the plateau, the subjective feeling is nothing's changing. But if you're measuring in small increments, you see the data. You see that last week you hit 8 targets. This week, 9 targets. Not dramatic, totally motivating. Measurement transforms the plateau from a wall into a staircase. This is where the first loop closes. The measurement framework is what separates awareness from delusion. Most practitioners feel like they're improving because they feel tired. Data tells them whether they actually are. Here's where it gets harder. The sixth principle is error identification. Most people see mistakes and move on. Elite practitioners see mistakes as data. A mistake is information. It tells you where your current model is wrong. It tells you what to focus on next. Think about a chess player who loses a game. Average player next game. Elite player analyze the loss for 2 hours. Find the 3 moments where the decision was suboptimal. Study why the decision seemed right at the time. Drill similar positions until the mistake becomes impossible. The mistake becomes the tutorial. This sounds simple. It's not simple in practice. It requires ego management. It requires seeing the mistake as valuable, not shameful. Most people see the mistake and feel the sting, so they stop drilling and move to something that feels better. That's the moment they stop improving. Now the breakthrough lives at a point most never reach. The seventh principle is consolidation and recovery. Learning doesn't happen during practice. Learning happens after practice. During practice, you're stimulating neural pathways. After practice, during sleep, during active rest, your brain consolidates those patterns. It strengthens synaptic connections. It encodes the skill into automaticity. This is why most aggressive practitioners plateau or burn out. They practice hard every single day. They never give the brain time to consolidate. They're constantly stimulating, never solidifying. Skill requires cycles, stimulation, then recovery, then testing, not stimulation on repeat. A violinist might practice 1 hour daily, but with a full rest day between intense sessions. A swimmer might do the same. This isn't laziness, this is physiology. The nervous system needs cycles, the muscles need repair, the brain needs to process. Honor the recovery phase and your progress multiplies. Picture a martial artist training for 6 months, training hard 4 days per week. On rest days, she does light movement or studies video of experts. Her brain processes the hard days during recovery. By month 6, she's moved through several plateaus and reached skill levels that a martial artist training daily hasn't reached. Why? Because consolidation math beats volume math. The 8th principle is deliberate study of expert models. Don't just watch experts perform. Study how experts practice. This is the hidden leverage. Anyone can watch a video of Messi playing. Few people study how Messi trains. Observe the details, foot positioning during skill work, patience with slow progression, willingness to drill basic movements that look boring, the structure of recovery. When you study expert practice, not expert performance, you learn the principles. You learn that speed comes after precision. You learn that they spend more time on components than on full performances. You learn that their sessions have structure, not randomness. You can then replicate that structure. Here's a concrete example. Watch how a professional pianist warms up, not how they perform, how they warm up. You'll notice they do scales. Slow, they drill tricky passages from upcoming repertoire. They test their hand position. They do breath work. Every element is deliberate. This isn't random movement. This is calibrated preparation. Copy that structure into your own practice, and your own efficiency jumps. This is the difference between copying and understanding. Most people copy the performance. Elite people reverse engineer the practice. They ask, how would I have to practice to move from where I am to where that person is? Then they build that practice. They don't hope it works, they engineer it to work. Now let's engineer your practice system. You don't need to implement all 8 principles simultaneously. You start with 3. You master them. Then you layer in the next 2 systems. Compound week 1 through 4. Choose one weakness, isolate it, measure it, drill it slow, record sessions to get feedback. This is your foundation. You'll already feel different by week 4. Your form will tighten, your precision will increase. Here's what this looks like across skills. A public speaker takes her sticking point, the transition from opening story to first main idea, and drills that transition 50 times, each one with full vocal attention, each one recorded, each one rated for energy, clarity, tone. She tracks which versions work. She does 3 takes per session. Week 3, the transition flows. Results vary based on consistency and current level. A guitarist isolates the chord transition, causing friction. Slow practice at 60 BPM, metronome enforced. Recording capture, feedback review. 5 minutes per session, 5 sessions per week. Week 2, the transition cleans up. Week 4, the transition moves to 100 BPM without degradation. Results vary based on consistency and current level. A chess player loses a game. Instead of moving to the next game, they study the loss. They find the 3 moves that were suboptimal. They load similar positions into chess software. They drill those positions, looking for the pattern they missed. They tag them in their database. They review them weekly for 2 months. Similar positions no longer defeat them. Results vary based on consistency and current level. This is how systems work. Week 5 through 12, add feedback velocity. Bring in external eyes if possible. Get a coach, get a friend, get a mentor online. They don't need to be an expert. They need to be outside the performance, able to notice what you can't see. Feedback velocity matters more than feedback quality. Immediate correctable feedback beats expert analysis. 3 weeks later, what this looks like. A runner training for a 5K gets a coach to film 1 session per week. Not to yell at her, to film the leg turnover angle, wind resistance. She watches. She notices the right knee collapsing inward under fatigue. She rebuilds form around that one correction. Week 8. Her mile time improves. Why? Because external feedback removed her blind spot. Results vary based on consistency and current level. A musician gets an accountability partner who listens once weekly, not to critique, to ask, what did you measure? Where did you struggle? What's the plan for next week? The questioning tightens focus. The session has more structure because someone will ask about it. Results vary based on consistency and current level. A programmer debugging code works with a peer, not for hours, for 30-minute review sessions. The peer catches logic errors the programmer missed. They build this into the workflow. Code quality jumps, debugging time drops. Results vary based on consistency and current level. Week 13 onward. Layer in progressive overload and consolidation cycles. Your weak point isn't weak anymore, it's adequate. Now you increase the difficulty 5 to 10%. You add complexity, you extend duration, you push the edge forward, but you also build in recovery cycles. 1 hard session, 1 focused light session, 1 rest day. This rotation compounds over months. Picture a swimmer who spent 3 months drilling the flip turn. The flip turn is clean. Now she increases pace. She does flip turn drills at race speed. Then she integrates it into medium distance repeats. Then she tests it in full workout. She doesn't do this back to back. She does it across weeks with recovery built in. Month 4 through 6, her full time drops a solid margin. Results vary based on consistency and current level. This is where the measurement spreadsheet becomes your coach. You track daily. What did I drill? How many reps? Precision percentage? Feedback source? Adjustment made? This seems excessive. It's not. It's the difference between practice and hope. The data tells you whether your system is working. If precision isn't improving, you change the system. If feedback isn't clear, you change the feedback source. Data drives iteration. Most people iterate on feeling. It feels harder, so it must be working. It feels easy, so maybe I should stop. Feelings lie. Data tells the truth. This is how elite practitioners know they're on track, while amateurs feel lost. Here's where the obstacles emerge. You'll hit resistance around week 3 or 4. This is normal. This is where your brain starts to rebel against deliberate practice. It's uncomfortable. It's boring. It's not the joy of playing the full song. Your motivation will dip. Most people quit here. The people who don't quit understand something. The discomfort means the growth is happening. The boredom means you're pushing the edge. The difficulty means you've left the plateau. These are positive signs disguised as negative feelings. Sensei wisdom says, comfort is your enemy. Discomfort is your data. Week 4 through 6, you'll feel the shift. The weak point will tighten. Precision will increase. Speed will increase without form degrading. You'll play an entire song without the sticking point interrupting. You'll deliver the talk without the transition stumbling. This is the payoff. But this is also where people get lazy. The weak point is now adequate, so they stop drilling. They move on to the next weakness. This is a mistake. Consolidation requires maintenance. Once you've built the skill, you drill it at lower intensity twice weekly to maintain automaticity. This takes 5 minutes. This prevents regression. This keeps the pattern encoded in your nervous system. Then you can move to the next frontier. A language learner who've spent months drilling conversation flow maintains it with 2 10-minute conversations weekly, preventing regression while adding vocabulary skills. Results vary based on consistency and current level. Now the second loop closes. The integration of all these principles reveals something about how mastery actually works. It's not motivation, it's not genetics, it's not even hours. Mastery is the compounding of small, deliberate adjustments, guided by feedback and enabled by recovery. Most people think mastery is this: work hard, accrue hours, skill emerges. That's the lie. Mastery is actually this: identify weakness, isolate it, drill it with precision, measure the progression, recover, repeat. Do that 1,000 times and you reach mastery. Do it vaguely and you accrue years without progress. This is why someone with 3 years of deliberate practice can surpass someone with 10 years of repetition. They're running a different system. They're not hoping for improvement. They're engineering it. Here's the final piece. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You don't need to wait until you have a coach or perfect conditions. You start now with what you have. You identify one weakness, you isolate it. You drill it slow, you measure it, you build this tiny system. It works. Then you expand it. It's system scale. A programmer in her bedroom can use this system. A student without a mentor can use this system. A basement musician can use this system. You don't need external resources. You need method. Here's the evidence. Research on skill acquisition spans decades. Erickson, Sloboda, and others have studied this across music, chess, sports, medicine. The consistent finding: hours aren't the unit of analysis. Hours vary in quality. Quality reps are the unit. 10,000 quality reps looks different than 10,000 careless reps. The difference is measurable in progression speed, in plateau duration, in skill ceiling. This isn't theory. This is demonstrated across tens of thousands of learners, from elite athletes to world-class musicians to grandmaster chess players. Same principle applies. Same progression arc appears. It's not one person's experience, it's the evidence. But here's what the research can teach you: the patience required. The willingness to do boring drills that feel pointless until they suddenly feel essential. The courage to stay in the discomfort zone instead of retreating to what feels good. This is the character part. This is where most people fail, not because the method is wrong, but because the method requires more discipline than they have. If you can provide that discipline, the method handles the rest. Here are your 3 commitments. Measure everything, or you're just hoping discomfort indicates the growth zone, not failure. The breakthrough lives just past the plateau. More deliberate practice principles coming. Don't waste another hour in autopilot. Keep training.